Back in 2018, Harry was untouchable, not controversial, not mocked, untouchable. He was the smiling prince crowds adored, the soldier prince who walked behind Diana's coffin and somehow transformed grief into loyalty from an entire nation. The palace had spent decades building him into the most emotionally relatable royal alive. And then came the wedding. Global cameras, billions watching. St. George's Chapel glowing like a royal movie set. Meghan Markle stepping into the monarchy while the media practically crowned her the new Diana before the marriage had even begun. But here's where the story gets dangerous, because when people look back now, they don't see a rise. They see the exact moment the collapse quietly started. What makes this whole thing so shocking is not where Harry ended up. It's where he started. This was not a forgotten prince trying to find relevance. This was arguably the most marketable royal in modern history. Military image, Invictus Games, public sympathy, royal protection, institutional power. He had everything. And somehow, over 8 years, every single pillar holding his life together started disappearing one by one. Friends vanished. Family relationships exploded. Royal duties disappeared. Public support collapsed. Even his physical appearance changed so dramatically, people started openly comparing photos from 2018 to now like they were looking at two different men. And insiders, they're no longer even hiding the whispers. Montecito is reportedly becoming less of a dream mansion and more of a golden cage, a massive, expensive property where Harry allegedly spends long stretches isolated, emotionally exhausted, restless, and wondering how his entire life turned into a non-stop commercial performance. And this is where the conversation gets brutally uncomfortable. Because people close to royal commentary circles keep repeating the same idea over and over again, Harry was trained for institutional duty, not influencer celebrity life. He was raised to command military ceremonies, represent the crown, lead charitable missions, and operate inside a machine bigger than himself. But now, critics say he looks like a man trapped inside branding exercises, staged appearances, product launches, Netflix optics, and carefully managed photo opportunities. That's why every appearance now creates this eerie reaction online. People aren't just watching Meghan anymore. They're studying Harry's face, his posture, his silence, the way he stands behind her, the way he rarely looks fully present anymore. Even commentators have started using humiliating language, calling him the assistant, the bag carrier, the help. And whether fair or unfair, those words exploded because audiences suddenly realized something terrifying. The prince who once overshadowed everyone now looks overshadowed inside his own marriage. The British press originally adored Meghan. That part gets erased constantly now, but the documentary record says otherwise. Editors loved her arrival. They thought she would modernize the monarchy. She was glamorous, American, mixed race, confident, media trained. They believed she would inject electricity into the institution. Some editors even compared her more favorably than Catherine during the early months because Meghan generated headlines effortlessly. But then the atmosphere changed, slowly at first, then violently. Reports of tension behind palace walls, rumors of staff crying, friction with Catherine, complaints from aides, the Duchess' difficult whispers. Suddenly, the woman once framed as the monarchy's savior became the center of palace storm clouds. Then came Australia in 2018. And insiders still point to that tour like the first major warning siren nobody wanted to hear. Meghan announcing pregnancy news during another royal event cycle. Staff tensions reportedly intensifying. Protocol frustrations growing. Harry becoming increasingly defensive. Palace insiders watching boundaries start breaking in real time. It was subtle then. But now people look back and say the cracks were already everywhere. The Archie situation made everything worse because this wasn't just about privacy anymore. It became symbolic. The royal family had always operated through public rituals. Diana did the photo call, Catherine did the photo call. The Queen understood the contract between monarchy and public visibility. But Harry and Meghan refused that traditional presentation while still holding full royal status. And critics exploded because later, when selective images of Archie began appearing strategically during commercial projects, people felt manipulated. They started asking whether privacy was ever truly the goal or whether control was. Then came Frogmore Cottage, taxpayer-funded renovations, millions spent. Simultaneously, the Sussexes were increasingly positioning themselves publicly as victims trapped by the institution funding their lifestyle. That contradiction became radioactive. Every interview added fuel. Every grievance deepened the divide. And then the South Africa documentary changed everything. Meghan emotionally saying nobody asked if she was okay became one of the most controversial royal media moments in years because the timing felt unbelievable to many viewers. Here was a duchess living inside fortified castles, wearing royal jewels, protected by the monarchy, publicly expressing emotional abandonment while surrounded by unimaginable privilege. Sympathy fractured instantly. Megxit was sold like freedom, independence, escape. But the deeper story people are now piecing together is much darker than that, because once Harry and Meghan left the royal system, they immediately began trying to recreate it commercially. That's the contradiction critics can't stop pointing at. They rejected the institution publicly while continuing to monetize royal titles, royal connections, royal trauma, royal access, royal status, royal storytelling, even royal family conflict itself. And suddenly, the entire world started asking the same uncomfortable question. If royal life was truly unbearable, why does every business deal still depend on being royal? The Sandringham Summit became the invisible line that changed everything forever. Queen Elizabeth reportedly made one thing crystal clear: there would be no half-in, half-out monarchy, no celebrity royalty, no part-time crown arrangement. Either you serve the institution fully or you leave it completely. Harry and Meghan chose departure. But according to critics, the following 6 years became one long attempt to unofficially reverse that decision through media projects, Netflix appearances, royal-style tours, speeches, carefully curated humanitarian branding, and emotional interviews designed to keep them attached to the royal aura without the royal restrictions. And every single time they tried it, the tension became more obvious. Then the staff stories started exploding publicly. And this is where palace insiders say the situation became impossible to contain. Jason Knopf's emails, bullying allegations, employees reportedly leaving emotionally shattered, former aides allegedly needing psychological support after working inside the Sussex operation. The infamous Sussex Survivors Club nickname started floating around royal circles like something out of a political scandal, not a fairy tale marriage. And what made the whole thing devastating was the contrast. The monarchy survives on hierarchy, yes, but also on discipline and staff loyalty. Royal households traditionally protect aides because discretion keeps the machine alive. But now, former employees were leaking pain instead of loyalty. That terrified the palace establishment. Meanwhile, Harry's old world kept disappearing piece by piece. Friends he grew up with? Gone. Military identity? Gone. Relationship with William? Practically frozen. Relationship with Charles? Reduced to tense occasional contact. Public sympathy? Eroded. Even family events now reportedly expose how deep the separation has become. Peter Phillips allegedly not inviting Harry to his wedding stunned royal watchers because Peter once acted as a bridge between William and Harry during Prince Philip's funeral. If even that connection has collapsed, people started asking whether the rupture is now permanent. And then there's the humiliation factor. Because this story stopped being tragic and started becoming openly embarrassing in the public eye, the same prince who once represented military honor and global royal charisma is now constantly framed online as isolated inside Montecito, while Meghan allegedly drives the operation professionally, socially, commercially, and publicly. Critics mock him for doing school runs, carrying bags, managing errands, disappearing into the background during appearances, and fair or not, those images became symbolic. People see Harry not as a prince leading his future, but as a man orbiting someone else's ambition. The most brutal part? The physical transformation. Viewers can literally watch the 8-year decline happen frame by frame. In 2018, Harry looked energetic, athletic, confident, connected. By 2026, the public sees a heavier, more exhausted-looking figure with visible stress etched across his face during appearances. Commentators openly discuss emotional burnout now, comfort-eating stories, isolation rumors, reports of him sitting inside the mansion eating fast food while Meghan continues building media projects. Whether exaggerated or not, the symbolism became catastrophic because audiences started viewing Harry as emotionally stranded inside a life he no longer recognizes. And Meghan? Her position completely inverted. Before the marriage, she was a moderately successful cable actress known mainly through Suits. After the marriage, she became globally famous beyond anything Hollywood alone could have delivered. Critics argue the irony is staggering. The woman who entered the monarchy needing royal status to become globally dominant is now perceived as the dominant figure while the prince himself appears diminished beside her. That inversion became the central psychological drama of the entire saga. The palace response, meanwhile, has turned ice cold. Invitations shrinking, family interactions controlled, public engagements separated, institutional trust shattered. Every major royal event now carries this strange invisible tension where people aren't asking if Harry and Meghan will reconcile with the family anymore. They're asking whether the family has already emotionally finalized the separation celebration behind closed doors because the pattern keeps repeating. Christmas distance, coronation restrictions, wedding exclusions, controlled meetings supervised carefully. The message becoming clearer each year, the monarchy no longer sees the Sussex household as operating inside the royal structure. And that is why the 8th anniversary hit differently. It wasn't romantic anymore, it felt forensic. People weren't looking at anniversary photos thinking about love. They were comparing before and after evidence from one of the most dramatic reputation collapses in modern royal history. A prince who once had everything, a marriage once presented as revolutionary, a couple once celebrated globally as the future, now surrounded by rumors of resentment, exhaustion, emotional imbalance, collapsing relationships, commercial dependency, and institutional exile. The frightening part is that observers believe this story still hasn't reached its final chapter, because every year the pressure appears to intensify instead of fade. More distance, more leaks, more visible strain, more public skepticism. And behind every smiling anniversary photo now hangs the same lingering question nobody inside that palace war can fully silence anymore. What happens when a man spends 8 years running from the very identity he was born to be?